electrons, I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. About 5 minutes ago, I won this game. It's a wild game of chess. Uh, and let's take a look at what happened. Um, is it fair to say how? I'll divulge how I won. I won it on timeout. But the game was nuts and fun, and my opponent played better board chess than I. But I did win eventually on timeout. And it wasn't like I played lousy chess either. So here we go. And I want to say, even before we start here, some of the moves I made rely on things other than best move chess. You know me. If you've been watching, if I'm new to you, then you don't know this. But if you've been watching, you know me. I'm gonna aim for best move chess, right? Uh, that's how I play. But in this game, I not abandoned. In this game, I expanded upon that facet of my chess playing. So I'm really excited because I wouldn't have done that even as recently as 2 weeks ago. Forget, never mind, uh, you know, 2 years ago or 12 years ago. This is a new part of my uh, chess play. So I'm patting myself on the back, and I'm glad about that. Here we go. I played D pawn opening, and my partner, or my chess partner, and I sort of made our way into this. It's going to be probably a Reti opening with Black's pawn on D6, a little bit timid but still well placed, and then castle kingside behind the Fian Shadow structure. This is part of the Reti opening. I waste no time to get the H pawn going. The H pawn is going, and he's going and capturing towards the center here. It might not be so bad as it looked. The idea I was trying to unhinge was H takes G6. Now, H takes G6 in response is lousy. My opponent's not going to play that. He, she, or they will be capturing towards the center. I think this is she. No, sorry. Anyway, he, she, or they would be capturing towards the center, but opening up the H file, and that's a bridge too far. So I put after H takes G6, Black still wants to recoup the material and must become slightly weaker than before on the A2 to G8 diagonal. Right? The issue with this is D takes C5 and viewing pawn recaptures as forcing will expose the D5 square, and white in at least one way, maybe two ways, can access the D5 square to find a check against Black's king, and then go, snowball from there into a kingside attack against Black's castled king. This is exactly what I did. This diagonal is now moderately exposed to attack. I like my opponent capturing back with the knight here. I think capturing back with the pawn is just not accurate in the way that I can play knight to d5 and have this like glorious knight on d5, but then knight takes d5, queen takes d5 check isn't all that bad either. That's what my point is. Once the queen gives check on d5, she's controlling some really important squares, and it's not clear if Black wants to pin the rook at f7 to deal with this, and so on. But that didn't happen. My opponent chose the much better move. Knight takes c5. I kind of blundered into knight takes d5, looking to remove the f6 knight anyway. Maybe overplaying the need or over calculating the need for queen d5 check at all. And in part, this is a blunder because of the response queen a5 check in return. It doesn't help white's uh, chances at checkmate if black is launching his, her, or they own checkmating attack or attack of some kind against white's king. Uh, and oddly, my opponent captured on e4. I say oddly, I don't know. It's the best move on the board. Opens up the f file. There's tactics against f2 if they can even be resolved. I'm not sure. The knight on d5 can just be kicked with the move pawn to e6. Fantastic move. Knight takes e4, gobbles a pawn in the process. I didn't look at this, way to deal with the threat at d5. There's an old saying, the best way to deal with the threat is to ignore it. And I wasn't sure. I hadn't calculated this. All of a sudden, this board tilts strongly in black's favor. Let's remove some of the arrows. Look at this board. Powerful bishop, strong central knights that support each other and have only one or two ways of being kicked, and one of those ways, pawn b4, loses to bishop takes a1 along the long diagonal. Black's rook, you would want to say it's the most powerful piece on the board with tongue-in-cheek because of the queens and so on, but it doesn't even matter. The reason black's rook isn't the most powerful piece on the board is because black's bishop is the most powerful piece on the board. And add to that the e4 knight is also the most powerful piece on the board. Anyway, I love the position here by black, and that this is mostly picked up by the evaluating engine. Torch for light is fine as well. Because black has 1 pawn worth of material ahead of white, but 2.1 on the evaluation bar ahead of white, which means 1.1 of that is due to some sort of positional superiority. And that's hard to come by. A lot of wins in chess, you win a piece and then you grind them down. This is outside of that. My opponent, even though my opponent is winning in terms of material, the win is even more strongly so by way of some of these positional concerns that I've highlighted. For instance, and then add that the queen on d8 is actually not all that bad because of queen a5 check, and that's difficult for white to handle. Maybe I can get in b4 and have some support for the pawn with the knight at d5, but yikes, man! Black is firing on all cylinders, and black's light squared bishop can block future checks if he wants to get rid of a knight. He could do that pretty much instead, but he could still do that. This bishop has a few squares to move to. Just like just this one move, I think maybe that's part of why knight d5 was such a blunder, is because knight at f takes e4 exposes all of this, and just like that, black has a very strong positional win to finish. So some of that I have to just concede certain points as white. Bishop to f3, we're blocking the rook's control. All right, so there's no tactic on f2. I'm also probably gonna attack I'm probably gonna capture on e4 if I get the opportunity. Now pawn to e6, and after trades on e4, like I said, move my knight back. And then really the queen a5 check pretty much does it here for white. I told you I won, but I managed to find myself sort of back into the moment of things. And if you would believe it, I was listening to Halsey's great song Castle on my headphones when I was playing this game, and I thought, you know what, she's right. And so I played Rook takes H7, a wildly inaccurate rook sacrifice. And yet the good refuge, or the good, the rook staying there, G takes F4, swallows a whole knight. And is this bishop gonna help when the black rook is, there's all kinds of troubles still here for white. But what the heck is his what the heck is the rook on H7 doing? Right here on black's king side where he could be captured. So this interesting move, a bizarre sort of sacrifice. And then I went, all right, well, if that much is that good, then I'll threaten checkmate and see if maybe I can sneak one in, He ignored the rook once, or my opponent ignored the rook once. Who knows, maybe some kind of flub, he'll ignore the rook a second time and it'll be queen G7 checkmate. Instead, my opponent rightly captured the rook. And I had seen this a few times, players playing against me. These situations are ripe. Ripe? Rife. No. Ripe. Probably ripe, but it doesn't matter. These situations, the type of situation where I give black a check with queen H5, and even if my queen can be captured immediately, the tendency is to deal with the check without capturing my queen. So I think it's called a swindle. Yikes, I feel bad. But it works once in a while. In order to make this move as white, you have to be pretty much desperate in terms of material. And I am. Here at this point, white is completely desperate, being 8 points behind black. So I went for the check here, and not without some honest intentions that not without some honest intentions that if king to G8, no, I'm king to G8, I'm still gonna capture. So yeah, I don't know, but and it worked. My opponent treated the check, and queen takes A5, and I'm up 1 point of material. I want to take a timeout. I want to acknowledge my opponent here. This is tough. I've been on the receiving side of a similar type of, I don't know if you could say largely this is tough. In the past, when this type of move has worked out for my opponent, I felt bad about it. So I don't know, I guess for what it's worth, former or used to be me and you are, if you're listening, we're in the same boat, so to speak. All right. Bishop D. Things get really crazy here. No, actually they don't. They get a little bit crazy, but not all that bad. Moving away from the knight to E1, just to keep out of the knight's range of attack. And like I said before, when there's this one square between an attacking knight and the king in this diagonal way, it takes 1, 2, 3 moves before the knight is placing the king in check, and that doesn't guarantee that the knight won't be captured on the first move or the second move. Like here, my dark square bishop can capture the knight on the second move, and all that kind of stuff. So just from a practical standpoint in blitz chess, is not going to happen. Look for other things for the knight to do, or check the king so that he moves, and then all of a sudden, maybe there's the king moves to say D2, then all of a sudden there's a check available on knight E4 check after knight E4 check. So some time pressure moves, and gotta grab this pawn. If the rook captures, the response is queen G5 check. I think it's certain that the king must then move, and the queen will destroy a lot of pieces. Right? queen takes f4 right away would be an idea, putting the screws to the knight on g3 with the threat of turning over a little bit to the h file and giving a check along the h file. Knight f5. That's the best move on the board. I'm gonna kick that knight. And here, under time pressure, just looking for moves that don't lose right away, and sort of require some sort of response or breaking your opponent's pre-move chain. I don't know if my opponent has pre-moves or not, but yeah, I would actually play time deficiencies the same way with pre-move or not from this side of things. Yeah, I don't. That's all I have to say about that. So move my queen to c3. I'm going to consult the analysis engine, and here black could play pawn to e5. I would think I might be okay at least with g takes f5. And then e takes f4. Maybe white's doing okay but not good. And that's kind of what the evaluation bar says. Let's take a look at what. So the engine has e5 and c5. Bishop takes c5. White's, under the engine's calculation, white is throwing away pieces to block the a7 to g1 diagonal. I can't say I see precisely why that's important, even after this look. So from a chess standpoint, I don't see the calculation behind that, but reading a computer program, I see that c5 blocks the diagonal, and then bishop takes c5, and then the computer has white playing bishop takes e5. There's some strong struggle here for this diagonal. I don't see the tactic though. The king and the queen can't be forked. If the knight moves away before getting captured, that's a big bonus for black, especially since doing so might place white's dark squared bishop under attack from the rook at f8. Okay, got it. Now I believe it. That makes more sense. But my opponent, that's incredible. Those calculations I made are difficult, and with the aid of computer and more time than the two of us combined on the clock during the game and all that. So understanding all that, we still understand in chess, knight d4 here is a miss, but I mean, come on, what are we gonna do? But no, knight d4 has some ideas behind it to open the attack against my undefended bishop, to bring the knight closer to where he might cause havoc and checks and all that, and to bring the knight away from the f5 square where the pawn is threatening to capture it. Rook takes f4 is seen as some inaccuracy. I think white will have perpetual check here by way of the board. And it was around I think it was actually after here. It was somewhere around here that I noticed we're both in time trouble, and decided to play quick moves to win the time side of things. Well, but I know that also from my opponent's standpoint that can hurt. To win a good, healthy game like this on time is sometimes that's a bit of a bummer. So I wouldn't be too hard, long-term speaking about it. But Yeah, that's my opinion. On my part, I'm glad to have won the game. It was a crazy game, um, featuring a lot of different weird tactical things. You love to play these games, you love to win these games, and then the swindle working was not so bad either. Um, Ended up winning. All right. So thank you to my opponent. Thank you to my viewers. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Have a great night.